last but not least, I want to touch on Chase Young. You know, Chase Young to me was the best college prospect I've ever evaluated. You know, in all my years of looking at players and talking about sports and scouting, Chase Young to me was the most talented prospect I've ever come across. I mean, the guy is 6'5", about 270. He's a guy that just seems like he's built out of a lab. I mean, rare combination of size, power, speed, and strength. I mean, this guy was a dominant force at Ohio State. And to me, Chase Young equaled potential NFL game-changing record on the defensive side of the football. And I've even said in the past, I felt that Chase Young, if he stayed healthy and actually honed into his skill set, he could challenge Lawrence Taylor for the greatest defensive player ever. Now, I may have been way over my skis, and it seems like I've been way over my skis, but that's how talented I believe Chase Young is and was. And I even said in the past, Chase Young probably going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. And for Chase Young, his NFL journey has been interesting because this is a guy that won Defensive Rookie of the Year, immediately burst onto the scene, and you just saw the it factor right away. But got into a sophomore slump, ultimately tears his ACL later down the road in his NFL career, comes back, looks pretty good, and I felt that Chase Young was starting to really surprise some people this year based on the way he was getting after the quarterback. But ultimately, Washington, the team that drafted Chase Young, they traded him away. And I feel like it was a dumb decision because I feel like talented players like Chase Young just don't grow on trees. And Washington traded him away for a third-round pick. And to me, that was disrespectful to Chase Young because I look at Chase Young as a talent and I'm like, man, a third-round pick? This is an ultimate steal for the 49ers. And you mean to tell me the 49ers defense is landing Chase Young? He's going to be right beside Nick Bosa? This is a match made in heaven. But at this point, Chase Young's time with the 49ers has been a tad disappointing. And now reports are coming out that Chase Young might be getting benched in the Super Bowl. In Super Bowl 58, might be getting benched because of lack of effort. There's this crazy Twitter video that's been circling around social media where Chase Young, just gives very, very low effort on this Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run where he's right there to potentially make a tackle and he just makes a very low effort attempt. And, it went kind of viral and that's what kind of sparked the rumors of, oh man, Chase Young might be getting benched in the Super Bowl. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No, because I think the 49ers recognize even though Chase Young's motor and his overall focus at times can be questioned, he's a darn good football player, and they need Chase Young to be on his A game if they want to win a Super Bowl. But when you look at Chase Young, I mean, he's this really, really talented pass rusher, but you hear little stories about he lacks attention to detail, kind of freelances, beyond what the coaches are trying to tell him. And in terms of his pass rushing bag, I'm going to give an NBA reference. Everyone talks about Kyrie Irving's bag and Kevin Durant's bag and Kobe Bryant's bag because it seems like they have every single tool in the toolbox and they're really, really skilled. Well, Chase Young, in terms of his pass rushing bag, it's very basic up to this point. And I think it needs to be refined and retooled and just Chase Young needs to dig a little bit deeper into his bag of pass rush moves and be better because it seems like Chase Young is, at this point, easy to game plan against. And there's been some instances where he's just getting pushed around a little bit. I'm like, Chase Young, what are you doing? You're a former top 2 overall pick of your draft class. You're supposed to be this really talented guy. But the good news for Chase Young is Super Bowl 58 is the type of spotlight where Chase Young can forever make himself a household name. Chase Young, with all the people watching across the world in Super Bowl 58 versus Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, the best of the best, he has a chance to earn himself $1 million check long-term potentially if he can put together a great, great Super Bowl. Because up to this point, Chase Young has been good for the 49ers, but hasn't really knocked anyone's socks off, and I think Chase Young, he's a guy that's potentially chasing a new contract and ideally in San Francisco, because if Chase Young doesn't get a contract in San Francisco, where's he going to go? He's probably going to get employment because he's a talented guy and he's not a bad football player by any means. But if you're Chase Young, you're living in the Bay. It's San Francisco. You're with your former Ohio State teammate, Nick Bosa. This is a Super Bowl caliber culture. Why leave San Francisco? And up to this point, Chase Young has not had a signature game yet in his career outside of a couple games in his rookie season. What's the signature Chase Young game where we look at it and say, yeah, Chase Young has officially arrived and he's actually entered the prime of his career? And as I mentioned, the 49ers need Chase Young to step up in a big way if they're going to knock off Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Chase Young, to me, will be dependent upon. So Chase Young, my message to you is play angry, play free. Go out there and have fun, man. And I'm rooting for you because I think you're really, really talented, and I think you have a chance to have a great Super Bowl performance. And Chase Young is one guy to keep your eye on in Super Bowl 58 for the 49ers. Will Chase Young clock in a great performance and really cement himself, in the NFL as a dominant, ultimate pass rusher? We'll see. Time will tell, because I think Chase Young has the talent, but he's got to go out there and actually produce to validate his overall talent and ability, through a great performance, potentially in the Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens.